some more Cavafy. A friend in America, a very dear and kind friend, has suggested that it might be better in some of my readings if I was less serious. She seemed to imply that I was a bit frightening when I was extremely serious, and far from wanting to frighten anybody, I'd much rather make you feel comfortable. She said perhaps if I was a bit more personal in my approach, people might feel less threatened. So I'll give it a try. Here I am in front of the computer, which I'm afraid this large screen gives off quite a lot of light, so that I look a bit ghostly, but never mind. So the Cavafy, we've now got up to number 51, which is another of his reflections on his sex life, I suppose. Let's be honest, that's what it is. He seems to be very drawn obviously towards young men, but at the same time somewhat scandalized in his own mind that he should feel these attractions. We just have to take him as he is. This one, number 51, is called He Swears. Intermittently, he swears to live a more ordered life. Then evening comes, then night, with enamoured yearning, endlessly enticing, with promised fulfilment. Night falls, and he is drawn into destruction. His body demands and obtains the fatal deception, the depraved attraction to which he's now addicted. I don't know that we would agree with Cavafy that his longings were part of a fatal deception or a depraved attraction. May possibly be an addiction, but anyway, that's the way he felt about it at the time. I'm sure he didn't feel that way all the time, but when he wrote this poem, that's obviously what was uppermost in his mind. The next poem, number 52, the illustration, is on much the same theme. The poet describes how he's exhausted with his art. We all get that way sometimes, obviously, with anything which we do with any determination, and his mind starts wandering. Number 52, the illustration. Artistic creativity is heaven, but today I'm dull. My pen is leaden. I feel utterly exhausted. The sky is growing darker, wind chasing rain. Thoughts now so slow. I do not wish to think, but only look. Here at hand, an illustrated book. I absently flick through the pages, discover a drawing of a naked boy, a beautiful youth stretched beside a stream, lying face down, exhausted, half in dream. He has run a long way and now rests beside the cooling water on soft grass, a creature of perfection. His long limbs relax in sleepy stupefaction. It is noon, a picture of contentment, loveliness. I gaze and gaze until my vision blurs, released by art from all art's weary toil. I wonder what Cavafy would have made of YouTube. I think he'd rather have liked it, actually. There's a surprising amount of this sort of thing on YouTube, never mind illustrations in books. A lot of stuff which is very much more immediate than that. And it seems to be terribly popular as well. As I say, I'm sure Cavafy would have enjoyed it very much. I'll just adjust the sound on this record I'm playing. That's better. It's Debussy, but played by Vlado Perlmutter, if that's how you say it. Anyway, where were we? Here's another one of Cavafy's Poems of Remembrance. In this one, the poet is spending the night in a cheap and nasty room above a noisy pub. It all seems very disagreeable until he remembers that on the bed in that room he once had a very enjoyable experience, perhaps even more than one. Number 53, One Night. A cheap and nasty room above a noisy pub. The view from the window, a dirty alley. Up through the broken floorboards came the noisy conversation of rowdy drunks, excited at their cards. But there, on that old bed, love's body pressed against me, I tasted the lips of love, love's sensuous kisses. Thinking of it now, after all these years, solitary in these lonely rooms, again I'm drunk with passion, just as then. So we see Cavafy, probably at this time of his life, well, certainly he was in his 50s, probably his early 50s when he wrote those three poems. And I think I said in one of the previous prefaces to one of my readings of Cavafy that at this time he lived in his flat in Alexandria on Rue Lepsius on his own. He had lived there with his brother, but his brother had got into financial difficulties and was now living, I think, in France somewhere. So Cavafy was living on his own. Most of his, certainly his mother was by this time dead, and he was getting on a bit, and he obviously felt lonely at times and tended to think back over his past life and the erotic experiences he'd had. Anyway, there are three more poems of Cavafy, and I've chatted on a bit, as suggested. I don't know if that will be a good thing or a bad thing. I shall have to stop recording and see what I've done and see whether I shall put it on YouTube or not. Thanks for listening anyway, and thank you for watching my videos. It's much appreciated.